of the body, and then you're banking on the fact that it's the top, and thus you wait for the previous candle to be broken, and it hasn't done that yet, so you have to hold knowing that it's a lower probability trade, but the risk is like a 5, 6, 7 to 1. You get it at the close of the body, and just like this one, Peter, same thing here on the 5-minute chart. Come on. Right there. Hanging man on the 5-minute chart, hanging man on the 15-minute chart. Now, ideally, you don't want to do this in freaking all-time highs with no resistance above you. Like, you want it to land on resistance and not be in the most bullish trend it's ever been in, basically. So I wouldn't play that trade.
Yeah. Well, it's too bad. Tell me, guys, which one of you is not going to have today's theme song stuck in your head?
William! William! W-I-L-L-I-N-M! William!
All right.
Yeah, man. So I wanted to do something a little different today, potentially, because it could be a great day to talk some psychology. Do we have lessons in psychology throughout the week at different times at all? Do we do that?
We don't have a scheduled time, but we talk psychology all the time. We were doing it earlier today, in fact.
So, yeah, I know, right? Robert, I hope he can jump on for this, although I know he's he's not going to. But all right, we can do the normal trade review, guys, or we can talk about some psychology stuff if you want for the hour. What do you guys want to do? I know, Greg. You just want to stick to the regular mix? What about other people? Peter, what about you, man?
I would say I guess I don't know what psychology you're looking to talk about. I mean, we have open afternoons, you know. There's always tomorrow if you want to do a fireside chat on psychology. You're usually gone by that time.
Yeah, I am gone by that time. The heck
Mix her up. Talk a little bit about the psychology. Some people have been eagerly submitting some trades, so I think we should get to a couple of them.
All right, cool. So review my trading. Dude, it's like, all right. No one else send in some chart. Whoa, wow. There's so many charts already. Okay, give me a sec here. Hold on. Alright guys, so during these trade reviews, like it's a great place to submit your trade and for us all to get feedback, and it helps me and I know it helps all of you. But as I tried to create these courses not these courses, but these times just to help myself, to help you, to be a win-win situation on reviewing the trades, I kind of forgot the idea that, gosh, we can use these review sessions to review psychological issues as well, not just trades. And sometimes we touch on psychological issues, but most of us know who are successful that the psychology is 90% of the battle. And thus I realized, like, God, today would be the perfect day. Why do we only focus on trades? That's just not smart if we want to help improve my own trading and to help improve all of your trading. So I think I want to just talk about psychology unless people really don't want to. I think it's a really great day and a really great idea moving forward. Is everyone okay with that? A combination, right? So we'll try to get some... In the future, we'll try to accept only trades that have that led to some psychological issue for that trader. And then instead of looking only at the pattern and the technicals, we'll kind of focus on the psych. And we're just going to use my example, and I'm going to show you guys exactly what happened here. Give me a second. On this one, I don't. Let's study config, price, show trades. Right. So probably most of you heard me talk about it, but I want to explain what happened today and how bad it was. And yeah, then they're in for trouble, man. We need a psychologist on site. So I'm gonna give you guys a sneak peek into the interview that Andrew and I did yesterday with one of the top traders and one of the top prop firms. We were able to talk with him, and it's so interesting to be able to talk to these people who make millions and are huge prop firms, and they look at the market completely different than us, and we look at it different than them. And we can all learn from each other. And he talked about all of the rules that prop firms had. One of the specific questions I asked him for all of you and for myself is, what can we as traders learn from prop firm traders? What do they do differently that we don't do? And one of the things is about being professional, but also they have tools that are not in our tool bag. Robert, get this. When we were talking with this person, Brett Steenbarger was in the other room coaching his traders. Not mentoring his traders, coaching his traders. Meaning you have a top psychologist in the room with you while you're in the trade. While you're in the trade. Yeah, were you helping? Okay, Robert. All right, so there you go. The fly on the wall. So you're in your trade. So mentoring is something where you talk about your trades afterwards. Like maybe our review isn't mentoring. This is more like education. But a mentoring session is you talk into it, you get in the details after the trade to see how you can improve later. But the coaching idea, as he describes it, is having someone there looking at the trades with you real time. Okay? They also have something called risk managers on site, where it's kind of like our DOS risk controls, but it's an actual person. And this person will monitor your account because that you're not trading with your own money, you're trading with the firm's money, and they will instantly cut you off when you break rules. Like, there's no questions. Like, this person sees what's happening, they monitor it to make sure you can't lose more than you're supposed to, and people still can go past max loss of their own, but there's certain thresholds that the risk manager takes over. Right. Yeah, Robert, I don't think you'd be a good fit then, man. They'd kick you out really fast. So they have these tools in the tool bag to help their traders that we don't have. And then we also talked a little bit about psychology, and he said one of the most important things that traders look excuse me, that their traders look for are the right stocks to play. So technical analysis is one thing, fundamental analysis is another thing, but if you're not picking the right stocks, it doesn't matter what kind of analysis you take. And so I asked him specifically, I showed him a chart that I traded on a harmonious chart. It was a really good trade, and I wanted to ask him feedback. I explained my harmonious chart to him. I explained what I did, and he implied basically my fundamentals were lacking, which they are. I don't worry about fundamentals too much. He was 100% right. But he gave the harmonious chart idea an A+ setup. He said, yeah, this is a great technical idea. If you share this with people, like, this is a good setup. This is where you can find your edge. If you were at my firm, this would be an A+ setup for us. Not for him, like he would do that, but just as I explained it to myself. For myself, trading style, and when I shared to all of you. So it was really fantastic to get that feedback from him, okay? So then I was feeling so good, I was feeling great, and basically I broke every rule today, okay? I traded a low float garbage, which I haven't done in months, and the trade turned out to be fairly decent, but I got so lucky. I could have blown up my account on something like this. I could have lost $5,000 so instantly, and I don't know why I did it. And so I know all of you do those things because I got an email from someone today that he broke all of his rules. He fell under the PDT rule, and I won't say who it is, and so I can just explain it. And he had all these rules he laid out just yesterday, and he just broke all of them today. And I did the same thing. Yeah, Jean, I traded 5,000 shares. In this first trade, this was like a normal share size. This one was 5,000. But it's breaking every rule that I take. Yeah, Alistair, we're going to talk about that. 8,000 shares on Arcadias. Yeah, that's bad. And so here's what I wanted to share. I am not trading tomorrow for psychological issues, and I am not going to trade heavy next week because I broke the rules. And when we were talking with this trader yesterday, he was saying he would never take on a trader that did stuff like I did today. You know why? Because it's not scalable. I did something that's not scalable to improve on going forward. So when I was thinking about all of you and what we do in this chat room, we want to make sure in our trade review sessions also that we find things and we work towards trades that are actual real setups, which we do, that we can find an edge on, that we try to, but that also are very, very scalable. JD, I don't know. No, I'm just not going to trade. And sometimes I think we forget that process of trying to scale up the trades in what we're trying to do. And so in this trade right here, like this is not scalable. This is way too heavy in share size. And let me just explain. It was a decent setup. I just completely bought way too much. I hit the hotkey 5 times, I think, and I got in where I had no risk to reward. I was just gambling 100%. And if you didn't know me and I explained this, you're like, hey, you like look at that trade, it turned out fine. Like, what are you talking about? This is the trade that can start a downtrend for me. This is a trade that I could have lost really big on, that I probably would have revenged on if I was wrong because of how I executed it. And these are the worst trades, and I really wanted to share my worst trade in 3 months turned out to be a big winner for me. And that, the psychological issue is that's how traders fail right there. If I do this again and again and again, I'm going to fail as a trader. It's 100% certain that I will fail. And Michelle, what I mean by scalable, that if you risk $5 per trade, that you can eventually risk $500 on that same exact trade. Slowly increasing it, making it scalable as you can increase your risk and manage your emotions. And so when I was talking with, Mike Bellafiore, he was talking about rules and following a playbook, right? Simply having rules. And he was even saying, God, if a trader can't even follow his own rules, like we don't have time for those type of traders. And this is what I wanted to share with you. We break our rules. I've been really good traders about not breaking my rules in general recently. I've been on a really good 2-month roll because I'm following my rules. And it was just like Mike talked about, like, following your rules is so simple. Like, they don't have time for that type of BS. If people aren't going to even follow their own rules, like, they just don't have time for those type of traders. And then the next day, after I talk with someone just like him that's so outstanding in the world of trading, and I hear him say it, I agree 100%, and then I instantly break my own rules. I know all of you guys do it all the time also. Oh, Kyle, I was risking like $3,000 on this. I shouldn't play a low float. I shouldn't touch the stock. I risked way too much. Those rules. Yeah, America. It was like the setup itself was actually decent. If it wasn't a low float and I wasn't trading more than my risk per trade, I'd be fine with this trade because I would have held it too. Not the point of the setup. The point is we all need to put a much bigger emphasis on rule breaking. And I'm not just using my example because I know we do it all the time, whether it's scaling out of a trade because we want to lock in profits too early, whether it's getting FOMO and thus we buy on a breakout when we know we don't want to. Like, these are things that if we can eliminate this type of stuff in our trading as a rule and really, really be professional with our idea of what we're trying to do in and day out, have a playbook that we study, that we follow, that we take trades in. That's what I wanted to focus on today for all of you guys. Because that's the path. We can review trades, and we're obviously going to do more review trades in the future all the time. But we need to get it more structured so that we can all benefit more from it. No, Merrick, I've lost tens of thousands on low floats. It's a rule not to touch low floats. You can be a very successful trader without touching low floats. So I had no business touching this. Well, what do you guys think? How can we do that as a chat room? How can we all get better together at the simple idea of like, well, what are we doing in here? Why can we not even follow our rules on a day-in-day basis? I know it's a psychological thing that we need to work through. Exactly, Alistair. How many of you guys have a real playbook? Because this is my challenge for you and for me. So type 1 if you have an actual playbook, like where it's written down and you only trade from that book. Now, Mike, I know that you do. JD, you're pretty good at it too. The other people, I just don't know. Henry, you seem like it too because you take very specific trades.
That's a two-part question there.
Peter, I hear myself feedback. Cool.
Yeah, sorry.
It's fine. And then
That's a big two-part question.
How so?
Do you have a playbook?
Right.
And do you only take trades from the playbook? Two very different questions, right?
Okay, so people who answered, do you have a playbook? Do you only take trades from the playbook? Type 1 if you only take trades from the playbook. Type 2 if you take trades outside of the playbook. Yeah, Merrick, low floats are fine if you want to trade low floats, but I don't want to trade low floats. Like, if I wanted to trade low floats, then I should trade them with small share size. I just personally want to stay away from it. Okay, so a lot of you have playbooks, and you take trades outside of your playbook. Last question, who doesn't have a real playbook? Meaning, you've got a document. Like, a playbook means you have a document that you have charts that you've traded in the past, or blank charts that you want to take, and that you have names for them, and these are only the setups that you want. Type 1 or type 2 if you don't even have a playbook. 2 for no playbook. Zen, you should have a playbook. Okay, we should not. Michelle? Sorry, everyone. I just don't know everyone here. Shubi. See? Bad on all of us. I have a playbook. And sorry, YouTube traders, this is a very a specific conversation, but I'm glad that it's live so you can see. Merrick, and sorry if I get your name wrong, but you're 100% right. All of you traders, and I don't mean this in a bad way, I mean this in a helpful way. Without a good playbook, it's going to be incredibly difficult to scale up and to make success in the long term. You can have short-term success, and there's always going to be exceptions. Not everyone needs a playbook, okay? There will be exceptions to every rule, but in general, a real playbook that you only take trades from is going to vastly improve your trading. So I have a playbook that has about 10 trades in it, and I trade mostly out of it, but not always. So I clicked the second one.
We're going to close the poll here in 10 seconds.
So
3, 2, 1. All right, you get the results. Here you go.
18%. You have a playbook. 37%. I'm in the 30%, 7%. What's a playbook? Do you not have a playbook? 30%. Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't structure the questions very well, but anyways, it shows that really, if we were, so only 18% of us would even be considered for trading in Bellafiore's shop.
Yeah, he would not be interested. If you guys are really great traders that can't kind of put your trades down on paper to explain it and know exactly what you're going to do when something arises, someone like him has zero interest in it. Yeah, Robert's joking, everyone. Robert is one of the traders that has a real playbook and probably only trades 90%. And I don't want to speak for him, but in this topic, on this one, I'm going to say please know that he's joking. He's very, very good at understanding the benefits of a playbook. So yeah, I don't have an answer, but this is what I want to do. I want to figure out how we as a community can help all of us with the idea of this playbook. And so, Michelle, I think your comment got lost and I can't follow everyone. But yeah, so Peter and just people in here, and again, no clear answer, but it'll help us all. What can we do? How can we develop one? We have a lot of great people in the chat that offers their time at their own behest. And I think if someone can start a really great format of a playbook, and we might already have one, and then us during the trade reviews, we might take 15 minutes to help update them or just to talk about it or something like that, specific dedicated time. Got it.
Didn't Robert Robert already has sort of a playbook format anyways that he's put together in some of his videos?
That's right, that's right. We can use that. Okay, let's look at the sample playbook here. I'm pulling it up. Okay, so you guys can see this. Now, right, I can't, of course, I know we have this playbook. So, we've got the idea here of you can put your charts in here. You can write down your rules here. Now, yeah, I don't know Vikram. I don't know Vikram. So, okay, so we have a good starting point right here. And Eamon worked on one in the past with me also. See, I can't even remember things right at the moment. So I want us to figure out how a lot of you who don't have a playbook can make a playbook, and then us start to all help reinforce it within each other that we're trading stocks from our own playbook. That's what we need to work towards, I think. And that will greatly, greatly increase our ability to find success in trading. Right, Michelle. Some people will never be able to process information correctly in the first 5 minutes. And they should never trade in the first 5 minutes. Then some people like Andrew, who commented to Mike Bellafiore in our talk, he has no patience. He cannot hold a trade. People tell him, hey, Andrew, if you just held your trade for a little longer, you'd have more success. But that's like saying, like, for someone, hey, if you can just get in the first minute, look at this go. Like, that person can't have success because they can't process it. Andrew admitted he has no patience. No patience to wait for things. So Robert's right. There are great patterns to look for in the first 5 minutes, but you can't look for 10 different patterns. You have to be very select and only trade from the playbook, from studying the charts over and over and over again, Michelle, so you know what you're going to see. Or if you can't do that, you've got to wait for slower time frames and let things materialize. So we need to update this playbook. I have an updated version, but like I'm not perfect at Excel. So we need to find, I'm going to talk with some traders I know are pretty decent at this to try to update this. It's not trash, Robert. It's a great foundation. Right, Mike? Yeah, totally. Like, very true. So first of all, is anyone in here wanting to take on this challenge? And I don't expect anyone to, but just in case that they want to, it's just an easy way to help. And you guys can talk with me about it to help make this a whole lot prettier and easier. I've made one in the past with Eamon, but the goal was not to make it for other people to edit it. It was a different reason. So Vikram, are you talented at doing specifically something like this? We want it to look nice, we want it to be functionable, and to be able to share it with people. Zen and Vikram. I like that you're volunteering. I just want to make sure you're volunteering with a knowledge base behind you as well. Got it. So Zen and Vikram, you guys are good? You're too busy at SMB, man. You can't be all over the place. Okay, so in IIIG, you're working on your other one, I know. So Zen and Vikram, and I'll tag IG also. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try to make a really good forum. We're gonna make a really good playbook for people, and then we're gonna try to figure out a way to help monitor this, or where you can monitor it yourself, but somehow be accountable through other people looking at it. Because I think that'll really, really help. If people knew what I was going to do and I had to post it or something, we got to figure this out with 5,000 shares, I wouldn't have taken it. If I had a risk manager, I wouldn't have taken it. If I had Brett Steenbarger in here right next to me saying something, I wouldn't have taken it. Robert's not offering anything, Michelle. Don't tag him on that. Jerome, we've got, it looks like we have enough people, so we're good. Thank you, man. I think the conversation we had with Mike was so interesting at times, just to hear him talk about what he looks for. He has traders that work for 2 million a year, 4 million a year, who look for it, who trade net P&L at those levels. And just to learn how these prop firms operate in that way to help control things and to help build traders' success in this way, this is something that we can do. We can try to mimic it a little bit. And the psychological issue that I'm just so upset at myself is, how can I have such a great conversation with such a great trader who tells me, hey, your trading setup is a really good A+, keep doing that, there's your edge. And then I just break some heavy duty rules the very next day. We didn't ask that, JD. That would have been an interesting question. I will definitely remember that. I would like to know at prop firms how they do that. I don't know. And Mark, they have risk managers, they have psychologists, they have a lot of limits. They have people overlooking their trades while they're in the trades. They have a whole lot of stuff that we don't have.
So William?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can provide a suggestion, an answer to your question, because it's one that I've grappled with. And in fact, in this week's Wednesday workshop, we talked about managing your demons and taming psychology. And you should have attended the workshop yesterday. And no, kidding. But it's interesting because your break of your rules and back to bad habits likely resulted from the conversation with Mike. And my suggestion would be it did, because while Mike said this trading setup, the harmonious chart, that's your IP, let's just say you created that, right? So you'd be very proud of that. I'm just saying
with Robert H. So everyone knows it was with Robert H. So just so we know.
Understood. Like, I'm not taking away from everybody that contributed, but
Yeah.
the fact is you're presenting it to them and have a professional say, I love what you've done. This is an A1 setup, right? You've heard the words because you're able to repeat them back. But in the back of your brain, all your brain heard is, you are freaking awesome, right? And it probably also heard, and you know how to trade. So when you went back into the markets today, what ended up happening was you took that general feedback back in the animal, they like to say the reptilian part of your brain, and just said, you know what the hell you're doing, just go for it, buddy. I find that happens a lot with me. And this is one of the things that I covered in the workshop, was saying we forget our rules. You're constantly forgetting your rules, which is why you have to keep reminding yourself of the rules. And I think that's one of those things that you have to always be conscious of it. And we were joking earlier today. You earlier said about being a reformed, or somebody used the term of being a reformed, low float trader or something like that, right? Like
An ex-addict.
I think an addict, right? The analogy to addiction is directly relevant, though, right? Like, if you go to an AA class, or if you're recovering from a drug addiction, the first thing that they tell you is you are an addict for life. You will always be an addict, right? If you're an alcoholic, you will always be an alcoholic. You could be an alcoholic in remission, but you're always an alcoholic. And I think as a trader, we have to remember that if you had bad habits, you can fight those bad habits. But we have to keep fighting them every day, because if you don't, what happens is you walk into the bar and it's just one drink. I'll be fine. And it's not, right? Next thing, you wake up naked with your belt wrapped around your head and a needle in your arm, right? And you're like, what the hell happened, right? Mm-hmm. So it's
that's a little too vivid.
Sideways quickly.
Yeah, that was too vivid, man.
There you go. Anyways, but yeah, that was maybe a little too far, too much. Sorry, guys. But anyway, but the point is, like, we always have to be conscious of that, and I think we're always fighting it. And you had a moment of weakness where the reptilian part of your brain took over and said, "Freaking, you know what you're doing, man. Go for it." And you did, and it was only after sort of the sobering afterthought you went, "What did I just do? Like, that's not who I am. That's not what I want to do." It doesn't really matter whether it worked out or not. At least you were able to come back to yourself quickly enough to say, okay, like that's an issue, and now you know how much you have to stay on top of that.
Man, so God, this is one reason, not one of the many reasons trading is so hard. I can get like good praise from an amazing trader, and then that leads me to make stupid trades. Like, what the heck? That is really freaking hard. I mean, it makes perfect sense, though, man.
Which one of us hasn't taken a trade or something, and at the end of the day, you're like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, when I look at the chart now, that is, what was I thinking? That, like, I know better than that. I know I've done it more times than I can count. And it's one of those where, we are human. So it's amazing, right? Like, how vigilant we have to be on managing our psychology and staying on top of our own rules. And to the point you're making, William, we don't have those secondary checks and balances that other traders do. Because if you know that the boss is going to come and give you hell, and the risk manager is going to come down and slap you upside the head after your account gets cut off if you break the rules, like, you will know that, right? Because that goes in the back of your mind, and that will help monitor and meter what you're doing. We don't have the advantage of that. And that's one of the things where, like, again, why do prop firms trade in big rooms? I mean, there's a reason why they force everybody to drive down to the office and do stuff like that, because when you put people together, it just helps reinforce that accountability, both directly and indirectly. So we have to figure out ways to get around that. And part of the way I manage it, for reference, is I rewrite out my rules every single morning. Sounds redundant, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. It sounds redundant, and it is. But every single morning, because what I do is I write a slightly different rule based on what happened yesterday, but it reminds me of the things that I need to do. And it doesn't always work, but I find it helps keep it front of mind. And yes, it's repetitive, but you know what? If I can't write them out without looking at anything, I don't know my rules well enough to be able to trade them. So that's what it forces me to say, can I write out the rule? If I'm going to write out a rule on, a double top, exactly how do I trade a double top, and what's the strategy? If I can't write that out without looking at a piece of paper, how am I going to take it real time? Anyways, something to think about.
Lots to think about, man. Lots to think about.
So Vicky, you're saying that you've always hesitated to take the trade. I mean, it is scary, and that's why I always suggest to people that you just focus on one or two strategies to begin with. You just focus on what you can do. Well, let me show you guys. Hold on, give me a sec. Because Michelle, you're asking a good question, and what rules? I don't write all of my rules down because that would just take too long, but I do force myself to take some rules. Hey guys, so let me put this on a backing so that it won't shine through. And I'm not sure, I can't remember if the camera, we'll see if this is in reverse. No, you can see this. So here's what I wrote up for this morning, right? No ads, ever. Take the damn trade. Make only solid setups, right? Pick stocks and watch them all day. Don't force it. Like, this is stuff based on my trading in the day and the day before. And I do something like that the day before. Here's what I wrote out. Here's my rules the day before. I actually wrote out a bunch of strategies. Here's the trades I'm going to take. What a V break looks like. What a double bottom and top is. What a trend continuation is. Right? I put myself notes. No other patterns. Blah blah blah. So it's things like that. I've got pages and pages of these things that I've written out in the past. Where sometimes I do it in big marker. I keep it interesting for myself. Right? Take the damn trade. Take a reasonable setup. Like, again, seems redundant, doesn't it? But I've got all these trades, these rule pages, because it makes sure that I keep it front of mind. So hopefully that helps. No, well, I've got a full playbook. So I've got a playbook that I use that I've written out all these trades. It's part of it I've shared actually in the past, and I can share a link again. It's part of my journal. So I go through that at the beginning of my journal and I refine and update it. But these are just the specific things I want to keep top of mind for whatever trading day. So, but it goes to the another one of William's points, which is very good, that you have to start with that playbook. If I don't have the playbook, I don't have the rules to pull from to be able to write them out every morning.
Yeah, man, we need a playbook. We need people to have a playbook. Even if they don't follow them, at least they have it there and they know they're on the right path. They're doing something right, and at that point, they just have to have the discipline to do it, which I didn't have today, but it helps me so much in general. We need to have our traders look more into playbooks.
Yeah, and Jerome's asking a good question about the playbook. I'm using the term playbook fairly generically. I can only trust this is what you mean as well, William, that to me a playbook is essentially it doesn't only talk about the patterns, but it lays out the base rules by which you'll be trading, right? Mm-hmm. How much risk am I taking? What's how do I manage my stops? I don't know, how do I determine entry and exit points? It's all of that stuff. Like, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into a playbook, I think, to sort of make it fully functional. Because otherwise, a trend is only one thing. So I've identified a pattern. Now what do I do? So.
Right. So a specific type of playbook setup for me would be like, if it's in a new 5-minute low, but then pulling back to the 2-minute average, or the 9 EMA on the 2-minute without making a new 5-minute high, and there's no support underneath, and I'm in a 15 and 16-minute clear downtrend, there is a perfect pullback entry point. And then part of my playbook is making sure I equalize my risk across this trade versus any other trade, which I can do with my hotkeys. And then I have to dictate where my actual technical stop is, which the share size will be calculated for me, and then I need to dictate what my risk to reward in that trade is. And then I need to have all of those things happen for me to have that perfect executionable trade. And so that's the type of thing that is in my playbook. So Eric, it does need to be flexible for sure, but we see the same things over and over and over again. There is a way to do price action and follow momentum, which Andrew proves to us each and every freaking day, and he's so amazing at it, and I've learned so much, and all of us do too, and I can catch some great moves. But then there's also candlestick setups that aren't so fast-paced and a little bit slower and easier to analyze, that happen day in, day out, day in, day out, that we can take advantage of as well, that we can add into Playbook ideas. Mike Bellafiore talked about that. The intuition of a trader is so important. But you have to study things. He was talking about professionalism. That was when I asked him, Mike, what are some things that prop firms do or that prop firm traders do that retail traders can learn from? And the very first thing he said is professionalism. He said we would be astounded by how much work and professionalism these traders put into their trading routine and their daily workload. He really said we'd be astounded by it. And I know what he means. In the past, I would stay up to like 3 a.m. looking through charts and my eyes would be bleeding and looking for things. So I get it. But once you do things like that, and then you can build playbooks and see these charts over and over and over again, and then you definitely can start to internalize it. So it becomes, like you're saying, there's an intuition and an instinct because you've seen it over and over and over again.
Yeah, I agree with William wholeheartedly. It's one of those things where, the practice, we think instinct isn't always we're not born with it. You can develop instinct, right? And when people say I'm following my gut or that, often that's just, you've subconsciously processed the data and you can take the trade. Again, I always come back to Andrew and refer to him. Andrew is a great example of a guy that has, he just takes trades. And it looks like he's shooting pistols like a crazy guy, right? Take trades. But he knows exactly what he's doing. He just doesn't have to consciously process everything, right? He gets it. He sees the price action. He understands where it's going. He's like, now's the time to get in. And you'd think, I'm exaggerating that, but for those of you that have been in the room a while, how many times have you watched Andrew take a trade the second before it pops up? It's like every second day he's got one of those perfect entries. You can't have that level of consistency without that being a trained instinct. He wasn't born able to do that. Yeah, and then he gets out and it drops. So what does he see? I don't think he can even articulate it, but he's processing the data, right? He's seeing the time in sales slow down. He's seeing the bid and ask not move as quickly. Like, I don't know, right? He's seeing the combination of these things that says, yeah, like this is not doing exactly what I want out. Like almost every day, you're right, he's got one of those entries or exits where it's just absolutely perfect. And you're like, what the heck? So anyways, you should see that as encouraging, because I know I was talking to someone before and they said, oh my God, that discourages me so much when Andrew does that. And then he's done trading in like 5 minutes. And I'm thinking, you know what, that shouldn't be discouraging. It shows you that you can train yourself to do that. And back to something I said in the Wednesday workshop, but there's no substitute for screen time. And I'll use my athletics examples all the time, right? You want to be a great athlete. You could have the best natural talent of any athlete the planet has ever seen, but if you don't combine it with hard work and time playing the sport and experience, right, you're never going to reach that potential. You got to have all three of the things. So if you're here, I'm trusting that you've got the will, so that's good. Now you've got to combine it with the, just the screen time and experience. And again, it's frustrating, I'll tell you, but it's like there's no substitute. How do you get 1,000 hours of screen time? Well, you got to sit in front of a screen for 1,000 hours. That's a long time. There's no way to shortcut that. Well, to be a master, Alistair, that's what they say, right? It takes 10,000 hours to become a master at something. So, and if you work it out, right? I did that math before. Let me do it again quickly so I remind myself. 10,000 hours. We have 6.5 hours a day, 240 days a year. That gives us 6.5 years. So if you want to be a master at trading, based on the old thumbnail trick, You got to spend 6.5 years in front of the market every single day the market is open to reach mastery. Right. And Zen, you're right. Andrew is about around that mark. So, that's why it seems so easy for him. He's a master. He's not just like an expert. A master is the next level above that, right? And that's why he makes it look easy. It's not. He just makes it look easy. So again, for me, that gives me hope every day, because I look at my journey and I say, well, I've been here in front of the markets, and my old history almost was an anchor, so I'm getting rid of that. But my recent history, it's about 3 years, so I'm not even close. I'm barely halfway. Yeah, well, William, it's whether it's been debunked or not, I do believe there's no substitute for screen time. It doesn't really matter whether you believe it's 10,000 hours or whatever the number is. But, again, and this market especially, I would argue that you need a lot of time because, and I think Norm was talking about this earlier today, you've got to see it through the different seasons. Summer trading is not the same as fall trading, which is not the same as winter trading, right? Earnings season trading is not the same as the quiet period. And so you've got to sort of experience all of these combinations in the market, which you can only do by going through the cycle a couple of times. You don't know how cold winter is till you've spent a winter in somewhere cold. So, anyways. Jason, sorry, and William, I've taken over here, but sorry. Jason, I'm wondering if you only trade setups in your collection of setups. So I'm not sure I fully understand the question, but yes, well, I'm trying to. Unfortunately, Jason, I've taken trades that were not in my playbook, and they usually don't turn out well. Or if they do, I realize it was just dumb luck. I had a 50-50 chance flip the coin, and usually somehow it's less than 50%. But so I've learned that I lose my edge if I don't trade the setups that are in my playbook, that are my very specific defined setups, because I understand those better and I know how to process the surrounding data to make them worthwhile. Obviously, after the analysis, I go back and look, and sometimes I realize there was things I missed, and which I was just lucky that they happened, or I didn't see this thing, which is why the trade maybe didn't work out as fully as I had hoped. So yeah, it is hard to process all that stuff before a trade, but that's why you got to practice so you get faster at it. No worries. It's hard. These are hard. These are the hard things, and I think it was great, William, to have brought this up, because, guys, this is all the stuff that you don't talk about as much, because it's harder to provide answers, because there's no firm answer to it, right? Because we're talking about managing psychology. You're talking about figuring out how to make it work. The other stuff is easy. Like everybody online, it talks about setups and patterns, and and I will give you the one pattern that will make you rich in 3 weeks. None of that works unless you have a lot of stuff surrounding it that's harder to describe, which makes it less sellable, right? It's sort of like, I don't know, I mean, pick any profession. You can say, being a golfer seems terribly easy. You hit a little freaking ball straight ahead, right? How hard can that be? But, there's a lot of stuff you have to manage to be able to do that. Anyways.
Yeah, and guys, the playbook, like what he was kind of implying there, is going to be the least important thing in terms of trading, just like understanding what we want to trade. The point of the playbook is going to be to follow the rules that we set for us, so then we don't have all of the psychological issues that come along with taking trades outside of the playbook. That's going to be the biggest point that I want people to understand. So when we're asking for specific trades that other people do, that's not the point of the playbook here. Now, we will share those type of setups so everyone can learn, but it's how do we reduce the psychological issues? A huge part is just freaking taking trades that we study for, have patience for it, accepting a win or loss, and then moving on. That's going to be the main point. Yeah, J-Bone, I'm going to start email chain with a couple people who are going to help us modify Robert's pretty amazing foundation here. And then we'll definitely do this. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time, only like 3 to 5 minutes. No, we might spend some more time on psychology, like 5 to 15 minutes during the trade reviews, but we'll definitely keep updated on each trade review in the future so that you guys can keep me on point to try to get this done sooner than later. And hopefully this can happen in the next couple weeks. If I just get a little help from these guys, which it sounds like I do, we can get it out to everyone. All right, Peter, I gotta roll. Sorry again, everyone, that we didn't do the trades as we usually intend. Thank you so much for humoring this topic. Hopefully we all hopefully it was worth it.
No worries. We appreciate it, as always. Here, we'll let you go out the way you came in.
William.